Open up the door, it's Dave! Who?
One of the coolest things, a tribute to the original astronauts and the people who went into space from the Kennedy Space Center, is that everyone who's gone into space and continues to go into space from the Space Center stays in the same place that all the astronauts of days of yore went, from the Apollo astronauts to the space shuttles to the people going to the ISS, and presumably the people that will be going to the moon. They all stay in the same dorm area. Now, I know it's been renovated, but it's at the end of the operations and checkout building, where they'd be inside and be self-contained in sort of a quarantine area. So they wouldn't get sick, they wouldn't be exposed to anything, and that way you were sure that there was going to be no issues when they went into space. That was the whole idea. So doctors would come in and check in on them, make sure that they were doing well. They'd have people come in and just verify that everything was going well, and they'd check them out. And everyone that comes into that space has to wear a surgical mask to make sure that they don't get the astronauts sick. Then the astronauts get suited up, put down their visors, and are self-contained in their spacesuits before they head out the door and get on the vehicle toward the launch pad. That door is the same door that you saw the Apollo astronauts going out of. It's the same door that the space shuttle astronauts went out of, and it's the same door that the astronauts of today go out of. And it really is kind of interesting that we had this legacy to that, and it's kind of a neat thing. Now, this is, as I said, the operations and checkout building. I spent a lot of time in that building. I walked out by that door more times than I can count, and at one point, I went through that door too. And it was really kind of a neat experience to be able to step out into the sunlight from that space and see what was going on. Because from that perspective, it really was cool. Walking by it all the time was really interesting because you saw this place where all of the Apollo astronauts, where all of the space shuttle astronauts had gone. They all stayed in the same dorm area back in the corner of this building. And it was really pretty neat. At one point in time, after the space shuttle mission had finished, and before we got back into the space business, I took the kids up and we went to NASA and we did the tour that took us back into the facilities. And because of where the ISS training simulator was, it was right across from the operations and checkout building. So we got to stand in that same space again, and I got to show my kids, hey, this is where the astronauts come through. It's really cool to be able to say that that's where you see it and that's where it is. I believe today they pass by there, but you don't get to stop and get out and see it, which is kind of a shame, but I get it. Now, the one thing I can tell you is, back in the day, they used to have this one vehicle that they would use to take all the astronauts out to the launch pad. There were many fewer Teslas around in that time, but today you see a lot of Teslas parked there because SpaceX uses Elon Musk's other product, the Tesla Model X, to ferry the astronauts out to the launch pad. And these spacesuits that the astronauts are wearing to go up into space are much lighter weight than what they had in the past. These are custom fit jobs with tactile gloves and much tighter fitting clothes. And actually, I believe the helmet is 3D printed too, which makes it that much more compelling. So it's a 21st century version of a spacesuit, if you will. And it makes mobility much easier so the astronauts can just sit down right in the car and be driven out to the launch pad.
What's your point, David?